Gonna go ahead and tear down this heater box. This is from the 71, whether or not it is an actual 71 heater box or not. I've never seen much difference between the years. The only thing that I can point out on this is the 71, this is out of a 71, and then this one came out of a 72. And for some reason, the fan has those long studs sticking off the back of it, and this fan doesn't seem to have those same studs sticking off the back of it. It looks like it might be a different fan motor altogether. So I don't know if this one has been replaced at some point, or that one has been replaced at some point, or if that's just a difference in the stock ones. I've never paid attention to the, fan motors that much. They are exposed under the dash, you can see them, but I just, for whatever reason, never really paid that close attention to them. But as you can see, that comes in from the cowl, and you can see how much junk is inside of that. I've already knocked out this one, so it's not quite so bad. But all of that stuff gets, that's your heater core right there. So if that gets all plugged up and full of junk, you're not gonna get much airflow getting through there to, pass through the heater core and warm up the air and make your heater work and all that. But this stuff is usually just super dirty. Tons of stuff collects on top of that from under the dash. The back pan usually gets really rusty, really corroded. These are what jet through the firewall, and there's nuts on the back side of them in the engine bay. But all of the controls, they all may still work. Well, maybe not. They might still work, but they're usually pretty, you can just hear it. They're not working very good. And this one actually isn't. It's working, but boy, that is really jammed up. So that would take a lot of pressure on that cable and your dash switch to push that over, and to get that to move and do anything is going to be bending that cable and putting stress on it, and then eventually breaking it, or messing with your controls and jamming those up. So yeah, this is a good reason to take this apart, clean everything up, and get things working again. Just sitting here back and forth just doing that it's already starting to work, but boy, that's one of the worst ones I've seen as far as really jammed up. But another thing to look at is these things are riveted in some of these spots. So if you want to get in here and take this apart, you're going to have to drill out these rivets and then re-rivet it back together. There are screws on this side of it to get the heater core out, and you can take the fan out with these, but this section right here is riveted together. So I will most likely have to drill these out and then take everything apart, get everything derusted in there, clean it up really well, paint it, because that's the biggest problem, is they didn't treat this metal at all, as far as I can tell. So you just had bare metal under the dash. Of course it's gonna rust. So to me, I don't know why they didn't galvanize this. There's a very good chance that moisture, hot air is gonna be coming through this all the time, and you're gonna have this type of issues. They galvanized the heater controls underneath the dash, but they didn't galvanize the thing that was going to have possibly hot, moist air going through it. So it's kind of odd that they didn't, but whatever cost savings they could do, I guess. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start taking this apart, and I'll show you the breakdown of it, and hopefully clean up and putting it back together. All right, so I took this thing outside and I blew it off with my air compressor, got a lot of that loose junk off of it. There's still a lot of dirt on it, it's still really grimy, but at least got a good start on getting it cleaned off. I probably have 100 of these things in boxes now for this truck, and every single time I do this, I love putting the trucks back together because of the fact that everything is labeled, everything is easy to find. there's no confusion over what screw went where. And for somebody who's wanting a correct restoration, you know, getting the right screws and fasteners back into the right locations is key. So I know a lot of people don't care, and I know a lot of people do care. So either way, it makes the whole process super easy to put the thing back together when everything is labeled, bagged and tagged, and marked as to what it is. And now this heater core may still be good, but I don't want to put the whole truck back together, put this in, and then find out it's leaking. I mean, I'm sure you could take it to a radiator place and have it pressure checked. Sometimes you'll get you pull these out and you can see that they're still really nice and really good condition. There's no corrosion signs, there's no greening, you know, any moisture on them and stuff, and you can say, okay, that one's, you know, something to definitely put aside for, you know, if I need one in a desperate spot. These right here I have not seen available. It doesn't mean they aren't. It doesn't mean that it's, you know, they're not available. It's just I haven't seen them available. I was looking the other night for one because I bought the new heater controls switch as well, the fan switch. But you know, I've had these be just as rusty as and crusty and gross as the pan, and then I've had them look like this, where I mean, this one looks perfectly fine and perfectly good. So I'll probably end up testing that one, testing it and making sure that it's still got good current going through it, and then you know, make sure it's okay. And these right here are always deteriorated, always cracked. And I said on an earlier video, I was like, oh, you know, I went ahead and ordered one because I've tried to repair these in the past, and it's just almost impossible. They're too they flex too much. You gotta squish them, move them, push them, do all this stuff to get the heater box back into the truck and get this back into the thing that's got these clips to hold it onto the sidewall. And they're always super brittle. And I was like, oh, I took the parts truck one off. I took this one off of the 71, and I'm like, oh wow, they're actually good condition. But right there, it was hiding. There's a crack. And what, from my experience, is that once that starts happening, this rubber's done. So you know, I'm glad I bought a new one, because it just, you try to fix that. Use duct tape, use adhesive, use, you know, really strong webbing tapes, and I've used liquid rubber, and then you're putting it in, and your finger goes through someplace else, and you're like, oh. So then you got to take the whole thing back out. Rubber just doesn't last over, you know, a long time. So if you can get a new one, I would. The clips, they you know, you need those to hold it all back together, so make sure you save those. The nice thing about this is, for the most part, I think everything on here is a 5/16 screw, so you can use a 5/16 spooler and pretty much pull everything apart. Yeah, I mean, that still looks like it's in good shape. Maybe it's been replaced once before. And a lot of times I will bag individual things like this and label them, because, you know, the screws are going to get all taken out. All that stuff is going to get, you know, put into probably a little tub of Evapo-Rust and cleaned up, where this isn't and stuff. So, you know, once you clean it all up, like I disassembled, I got a video I'll be posting soon of disassembling the heater controls and everything like that. I cleaned up everything individually and bagged everything individually, and then put it all in one bag, you know, together. But that way, everything that's clean isn't, like the chrome isn't getting scratched by something else while it's just sitting there waiting to be reassembled. And yeah, I could wait till I'm ready to put this in the truck and disassemble this, rebuild it, put it all back, paint it all, put it back together, and then install it in the truck all at one moment. But some of this I'm trying to do ahead of time so that when I really get going on assembly, I can just put it all back together. I'm not rebuilding, putting it in, rebuilding, putting it in. I've done that in the past, and I don't know. I don't find that I enjoy doing it that way. I like when I can, you know, just when I get in that mode of putting something together, I'm putting it together. I'm not in the process of restoring it and then putting it in, restoring it, putting it in. You can do it however you want to. That's just my process. So this type of stuff here, you can see where, you know, the grime and the dirt and everything that just kept getting into the heater box. Now, you know, is it the end of the world? No, but that's the stuff you're going to be breathing every time you turn your heater on, or you open your vents. That stuff's gonna be blowing around in there. So to me, you know, get that stuff scraped out, get that cleaned out. These smaller parts like this, I probably will not laser clean. I'll probably just drop it in a bucket of Evapo-Rust and let that sit and do its job while I'm doing other things. If I had a whole bunch of parts together, maybe I would do the laser, but I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Evapo-Rust because it doesn't eat into the metal either, and I can drop it in there and walk away and keep working on other things. So, yeah, that's why I still use the Evapo-Rust even though I have the laser. And as far as why am I scraping this all out, blowing off the extra stuff, because it makes your Evapo-Rust last longer if you don't have it full of junk. I've had different success with these fans of, you know, cleaning them out and not necessarily rebuilding them, but, you know, just taking them apart, cleaning them really well, and getting them running well again. And other ones I've had nothing but problems where they squeal and squeak and don't want to, you know, run right. So I know you can buy new ones, and so if you know, would rather start off new and not even hassle with it, then, you know, that's up to you. But you can bench test these before you put them back in, and that's where, you know, it pays to bench test it before you put it all back together. This you can take out while it's in the truck. This is not a huge deal to take out when it's under the dash, because this is still right there at your feet. So that's the nice part about it. These things are usually pretty well sealed in here, but this one actually seems to be okay. You can buy all new seal kits for these. Before I spend the money on the seal kits, I usually will take it apart and see if the seal is deteriorated and bad or not and stuff, and then if it is, then I'll go ahead and order the kit. Grab a scrap piece of wood so I don't drill into my workbench. Now we got to pull this thing apart and see what falls apart when doing so. you got all these levers going through this side over here. Oh, and then this one's got a retaining clip on it, so it's not going to let me pull it off until I get that off. Trying to remember the last time I had to take one of these fully apart like this. It's been a number of years. And a lot of times they're not gummed up this bad inside, so you know, you can just spray some oil in there, some white lithium, and clean it up the best you can, and then, you know, run them. But this one not working, I'm gonna go ahead and push it all the way and take it all the way apart. Really try not to hit that plastic at all. Finally, victory. So that little spindle right there was pretty much just rusted in place on this tab right here. So it was a little bit more of a battle to get that out. But as you can see, this piece right here is cracked. So I'm gonna have to do some epoxy work there to get this back together, because the crack runs right up into this section here. And for the most part, these are all super thin. That one over there, it's chipping away already, breaking away. So there's really not much of an option other than just to repair it. So whether I do baking soda and super glue in there, or I do an epoxy mixture, the biggest thing is widening out that crack a little bit, getting enough adhesive and material in between there to repair it and hold it back together. So yeah, and then there's a few cracks splitting out from this one here too. So I'll sand this out, clean this all up, load that up with epoxy. Any of these ones that are cracked, load that up with either epoxy or super glue and baking soda, and really get it glued back together and holding tight again. Like I said, this one wasn't working, so, but as you can see, this was the mechanism inside of there. So when you're pushing and pulling on the cable, it's supposed to be opening and closing that vent right there, and this just wasn't really sliding and moving and doing what it was supposed to do. So, but you can see, I mean, it's got a lot of rust in here. So I'm gonna clean this all up and de-rust everything, paint everything, so that it won't do this again and last you know, another 50 plus years. But yeah, video, pictures, make sure you do that, because some of this stuff can be real funky because you can't see inside of it to see, you know, even if you have a spare one, you can't always see inside of it to see how it goes back together. It can be a real pain putting this type of stuff back together if you don't have it documented. But broken down to all its pieces now. Got all the different pieces. And that's what makes up a heater box for the Fords anyways, the old Ford pickups. So now it's on to cleaning all this up, finding rivets that will fit these holes, derusting all this, and pulling this apart, seeing, or actually we're going to bench test it first, see how it runs, and then if it runs good, then probably just do some cleanup, blow it out, and then also test it again Alright, so I just fastened it to the board real fast, just so it doesn't torque and spin off the workbench. And I got it hooked up to my jumper box. And just gonna do a quick little bench test for it. Oh yeah. Runs nice and quiet, nice and good power to it. I don't even think my battery box is charged up all the way. That's why it keeps beeping at me. But yeah, no, she's running good. So, got a good motor. So being that she tested good, I'm gonna go ahead and remove the clip. Make sure that doesn't happen. Shoot yourself with the retaining clip and try to ease this fan off of here without breaking anything. Mainly just to clean it up, be able to paint it, and move on in that as far as that's concerned. All right, I think we're finally there. Whew. Boy, that little spindle being rusty like it is made that a way bigger fight than I've had in the past. So, trying to pull out, gonna have to pull out all the tricks on that one to try and get that off there without, and I was actually starting to get concerned I might have to buy a new fan just because that might break taking it off. All right, so I cleaned this off really good, scrubbed it really good inside and out. And if you watched my video on repairing a 71 through 72 steering wheel, you know that I used super glue and baking soda to repair all the cracks and all the deep crevices on that steering wheel and lock it all back together again. And you know why I did that. Basically, this stuff creates a super strong bond. The baking soda activates it really quickly, and it hardens the super glue almost instantly. So any of your cracks and all that kind of stuff, you don't have to sit there and hold it and try to keep it stuck together. So I'm gonna go get my Dremel. I'm gonna widen some of these cracks out so I can get material down inside of them. This has been sitting out in the sun. It's pretty warm, so that's gonna only help it cure some of these things. And then I'm just gonna go around and fix these little issues that this thing has. Nothing major, no big chunks missing, but you know, there are some weak spots, so I wanna go ahead and fix them and cure those issues before I put any paint on it and start, you know, finishing up and wrapping up this part of the project. So the tip I'm using for this is a really fine little sharp tip that will hog out a V channel in the material and will help create a space for the adhesive and baking soda and everything to you know, fill in. Gone through and widened the cracks that I found, made sure there was, you know, enough space to put some super glue and baking soda into them. Anywhere that I was able to get to the inside of the cracks as well, I went ahead and did that there too. So just gonna go ahead and start putting adhesive in there and sprinkling a little baking soda. So the nice thing is, if you didn't watch the steering wheel video, is that this stuff hardens up pretty fast, almost instantaneous, and that it also becomes sandable and workable pretty much, you know, same time. The baking soda and super glue react to each other and create a really strong, solid bond. So, you know, I could go back and start working on this crack or any of the other cracks I already did here pretty quickly, and be able to sand it and smooth it out and bring it right down to the level I need it to be. So if you've never seen this before, you can do some research on YouTube. There's a couple of guys, you know, fun channels that, you know, all about this type of stuff, and just, you know, interesting little chemical reactions and things that react with each other, and baking soda and super glue are one of them. And it just is so much faster than any type of epoxy or any other type of adhesive for the most part. You know, super glue seems to glue your fingers together really quickly, but, you know, plastics and other things, you know, it seems like you're sitting there forever holding them, trying to wait for the stuff to dry. But it was broken. It was completely sheared in half right there, all the way up to this line of this thing, all the way around the corner, all the way in, and then it was cracked over here as well. And so this whole piece was flimsy. And now, no matter what I do, I can't move it. It's completely solid. 80 grit piece of sticky disc sandpaper stuck to a block because it fits on there perfectly, and gives me a flat sanding surface, and it also is aggressive enough to cut right into that baking soda and super glue mixture and tear away at it. All right, so I'm gonna hit the inside of this thing first, since I don't care if it gets a little bit muffed up in the, you know, rest of the process. But just hitting it with this product, Satin Black. And yes, I'm just painting it right outside because it's a nice, beautiful, sunny day, and I don't have to prep anything to get overspray, nothing out here. And no, you do not have to paint the inside of it. I just like a more finished look on everything. So it's already apart, it's already done. Might as well just coat it, give it a nice smoother finish on the inside. The other nice thing about this product is it dries really fast. So out here in the sun, it should dry really quickly, and it doesn't seem to hurt the finish of it drying in the direct sunlight. With some paints, you can have the finish look off or weird, or it dries too fast. And yes, I did wipe this whole thing down with a adhesion promoter. I just did that off camera. The only thing I'm battling right now is I got a little breeze kicking up every once in a while, so I'm getting a little closer than I normally would for painting. Usually you want to be back about 6 to, you know, probably about right here for most of the time if you're painting this product or with this product. But with the breeze, I'm getting a kind of fighting the wind. So in addition to saying, you know, I wasn't sure about this gasket material, I was kind of doing some investigating on it, and it's just a rubber gasket. It's not anything special. And I just so happen to have a huge roll of this same stuff in 1/8 inch right here. So if it was 50 years old squished between two pieces of metal, that's what it would look like. So the last time I bought gasket material, I didn't have that roll of rubber, so I didn't really notice it or think about it. But I could easily remake this gasket without even ordering the kit. And then the foam that was on the little flapper blades and everything would be pretty much the same thing. This stuff is a very common used type of foam. So yeah, I probably could, if I can get this off of here without destroying it, I could use it as a pattern and just reuse it again. So anyways, just kind of found that interesting, and probably, you know, thought, oh yeah, I can probably just re-gasket the whole thing on my own. Get ready to clean up. I had said I wasn't sure if this motor or that style motor was, you know, correct for this year of truck and whatnot, but I pretty much got my answer here, because when I took that plate off, it says May 12th of 1971, which was pretty cool to see. So there's the part number, there's May 12th, 1971. I believe this truck was built in June or July of 71. I could be wrong on that, but I know that I've looked up the VIN number on it and looked at the date. So I was cleaning all this up because, like I said, the paint just blows off of it if you look at it wrong, and there is a little bit of surface rust here and stuff like that. So I'm trying to clean the body of it up and get it ready to repaint. So, but I'm gonna leave that. I mean, that's part of the truck's history. It is the original blower for this truck, and it still worked really well. So I'm just gonna tape this whole end off. Like I said, I wasn't gonna paint this anyways. So as I was saying, the paint on these items absolutely is horrible from the factory. The paint, I tried to tape the stamping May 12th, 1971, and the part number, and the tape wasn't even that aggressive of a tape, and it was already pulling the black paint off. So, you know, it's just, it just is not that high a quality of paint. So I taped it off all the way around it. And just kind of wrapped the tape around and around and around so that it kind of spiraled all the way up to the tip of this. And so then I could paint the thing. And now I'm just gonna clear coat the back side of this so that it preserves the stamping and the original date on the piece. You know, I know I'm not going full restoration. I could easily just paint over that and it'd be no big deal. I just thought that was kind of cool, being that anything that whenever there's a date, I try to save the date, the stamping of the date or whatever, everything. But, you know, it's like the paint is so bad from the factory that, you know, very unaggressive tape pulled it off. So yeah, kind of frustrating, but you know, nothing else. Like I said, I'll just clear coat it, and hopefully that'll keep this area from rusting and getting, you know, really hard to work on and stuff, being that it would be at least be clear coated. So I went ahead and hit it with a satin clear. It's still wet, so it'll still have that shine to it right now, but at least you can still read the date that's on it. It's going to protect that bare metal right there. The studs, the shaft of the motor is still taped off, so it's bare metal, and that should make this go back on relatively easy. And then put the clip on and everything's good to go. So this piece has been sitting in here for probably just a couple hours at this point, and you can already see a major difference in just the little line on it right now for this stuff. I could have had too many parts in here, so I couldn't get this all the way below, but you can see how much it's already changed from that view right there to now to that over here. It's pretty crazy. This one I put in the same time, and you can just see all those parts were all the pieces of it were super rusty. I mean, you can see the bronzy, rusty look there at the top surface that wasn't under the, I mean, it's got a, you know, perfect line. Major difference. And then try to pull this up. This piece wasn't bad to begin with, but it had a lot of surface rust underneath the paint, so I'm just letting it sit in there as well. These pieces were very rusty and had adhesive on them, so if you look, that's already dissolving a lot of that stuff off of them. And then this has been sitting in here for almost 24 hours. And that wire has that cable has completely changed color. That was completely rusty all the way down it. So that's pretty cool. Just finished getting all these parts into a primer, or a sealer primer, so that the heater box will be sealed up, nice fresh paint on everything, and sealed so it won't rust again, hopefully. Took them out of the Evapo-Rust and they were really nice, but I had to get them into a primer coat because they'll flash rust if you're not quick about it, because the whole cleaning process involves rinsing them down with water. So, you know, can't let that sit. Got to get them dry quick and then get them into a sealer. So got those done, and gonna shoot some paint on them here in a little bit. Oh, and I also got all the little parts and pieces for the heater controls in primer sealer as well, and then going to get those painted. All the fasteners were black, all these little fasteners were black, and then these were a metal color. So got to determine what I have on the shelf to get them painted up and done, and Still debating on those parts too, because those were basically a raw metal. If you look at this right here, it's just, you know, I don't know if they had treated it, you know, but it was basically looks like bare metal. And, you know, maybe it had some type of a coating or something on it, but, you know, it didn't really last because everywhere is pretty rusty and, you know, gross. But try to come up with a color that's close to that so it looks somewhat like, you know, it's supposed to. So I went with a cast iron color for this. It's the most metallic looking color I have, and even though it wasn't quite right, it still at least looks like a metal coat versus like a silver or something like that. It just looks like I painted it silver paint. So you know, it should work. I know they're not black. I know a lot of people just paint them black, paint all the parts black inside of it and everything, but they were a metal color inside, so I just kind of went with a metal looking color. Black for the fans surround holder, and all of this has dried. I even painted the little tabs because all those things were rusty, so let them soak in Evapo-Rust for a day and took them out and cleaned them off and hit them with a primer sealer and a little bit of paint. Hopefully that'll keep them from being all covered in rust and nasty for the next time somebody has to take this thing apart, if ever. So this thing turned out just, it looks brand new. It looks like I went and bought one. That does not look like a 50-year-old piece of metal that's been cleaned up and then just repainted. I'm really happy with the way that turned out, the finish on it. Man, that just looks really good. So that's cool. Gonna put that back on the motor and start reassembling what I can. Oh, and the fan blower turned out pretty good too. Let it soak in some degreaser and then just scrubbed it down, splashed it around in a bucket of water and scrubbed it a little bit and cleaned up really nice. So 50 years of dirt and grime all cleaned out of it. Ready to put it all back together. I do have to wait on the clip for that though, because that's sitting in a bucket of Evapo-Rust. So the clip was a little bit rusty. So the main key that I'm concerned with in putting this back into here is that I want these wires to be at the top of this plate, so that when you look under the dash at this, you don't see the wires going down and then back up. So if the wires were at the bottom, it would be like that. You'd see them sticking out underneath the dash, and then they'd have to go back up to get to where they need to. Plus I don't know if they're actually long enough, so I want to make sure that this gets put back on the proper way. And I have the other heater box sitting over there on the table, so I'm just trying to compare what it looks like and what direction that would be to make sure it's up. And it looks like it's like that. So that should make sure that those are coming off the top. This was the old gasket, so I need to make a new one. And that cleaned up so well that you can't even see where that was glued to it anymore. And this has got a flat side on it right there. It obviously has to go down the only one way it can. Oh my gosh. I fought that thing so hard to get it off, and that because it's now clean. There were 50 years of dirt and grime and rust that had that thing just completely held on there. Now it just slides right off. So looking pretty good. Time to make the gasket. So as far as I can tell, this material right here is exactly the same material as this right here. Feels exactly the same. It's squishy just the same. I know this material from selling it through my work. We had a whole bunch of it that was deemed overstock, and they just got rid of it, liquidated it, and I ended up with a bunch of it and put it all on a roll over on my cloth holder over there, and been saving it for upholstery work because it's a perfect padding underneath the vinyls and leathers and stuff like that. So 8-inch rubber padding, and I know it's used to make gaskets just like this back in the day. Since I have it, I don't see any reason why I can't use it to make my own gasket. So I just have a piece of cardboard laying on top of my workbench, so I'm not gouging in the workbench any more than I have to. And I'm just gonna trace this out real quick. Simple enough. A little bit oversized for the time being, that you can trim down. And there you go. So after a quick wipe down of this part, this is the one that worked the best. I dunked it in the bucket and got it working again really well. This one was one that was kind of jamming up and sticking right here. So it doesn't want to open past that point very well. And when it does, it gets stuck right there. So I went with this one, and in so doing, cleaning it, I pretty much was able to guarantee or confirm that it was the right one, because it's teal, and this one has no paint on it, and this one came off of a green and now white truck, but the 71 is a teal truck, so pretty much figured out that that's the correct one for it anyways. Not that it would have, you know, been dire straits or mattered, but it is nice to be able to put the parts back on a truck that it came with. All right, so I'm going to try to do this while filming, but I'd have to pay attention to what I'm doing. I can't pay attention to the camera, so if it falls off the view, I apologize. The tips of these things can be a little fuzzy sometimes, so that's why I'm paying attention more to the what I'm doing here and not the camera. So like I said, it's kind of just sit here and dot at it and try not to go very hard. Don't press very hard. Just as soon as you feel that you're touching it, pull back away from it. And when when these are raised, it's so much easier to do. But the one like the brake handle where it was recessed, that one's a little more challenging because you have no option but to put paint where you don't want to put it. And then try to clean it back off. And the other thing, from this view, it could look great and I'm doing a great job. But from the view that looks down on it, like where the passenger sits and where the driver sits, I could be getting too much paint on the other surfaces. So I gotta go back and take a razor blade and try to clean those off if it gets too much into those other areas. Yeah, so now I can breathe again. But what I'm talking about is if it gets up here on this upper lip of this, then it will look bad. It'll look blurry. It'll look not straight and stuff. So it looks like, at least from this angle, that yeah, those are still okay. Yeah, that's got a nice sheen to it. My camera light is, you know, reflecting and showing the sheen of it and the nice lettering stuff. So if we were to take it over here and put it on the cardboard with this one, flip this around, that's pretty much what you're gonna see from the footwell, but obviously looking from it like at that angle. But to me, that just looks so much better. And obviously, you know, these are grimy and dirty and everything, but even if you clean that, it just doesn't look right. It doesn't look nice. So, worth the time? In my book, yes. Alright, so the retaining clip has been cleaned and dropped into place. Squished that on there. It was falling off a minute ago. Now that little clip just perfectly squishes that on there, pinches it on there, and she's back to business. So here is the repaired and cleaned up and painted heater box, and use the exact same paint for the fan housing and the fan shroud pieces. This plastic vent is also cleaned up and looking really sharp and good. The white lettering, just dabbed it on like the video I made of that shows. And that just all fits together like this. Got the rubber boot. I got a new rubber boot that goes in between the two. All the metal pieces that go on the back side of this box are painted and almost ready to go on here. Basically just have all the fasteners soaking in Evapo-Rust to get them cleaned and ready. I was a little behind on that and forgot to put those in there earlier, so it's getting there. Tins are looking really good. Love that cast iron color, and you know, painted on the inside and out, so a lot more than I can say for what the factory did. Whatever coating they did or whatever, you know, treatment they did, it was not enough for the sake of how rusty these parts were. Made little wire holders so I could keep them stable and paint it. Might have to do a little touch up here or there where the wire was in contact, but it's got a primer sealer coat on it and then paint, so even little parts that come out and are exposed will match the back of the plate. This is the inside of this, and this is where it was sandwiched against the rest of the box, and it was obviously holding moisture there, and it's more pitted along that area, but it cleaned up really well. The Evapo-Rust got all that rust out of there, and had a little more pitting on the backside and stuff too. I think this is where it sits against the firewall insulation, so a little bit of pitting you can see in there, but you know, got that all treated, got it all taken out. These parts came out looking great. So these are the holders for the cables coming in and stuff. So overall, I think that these pieces look, you know, really great again. Much better than, you know, the rusty, crusty look, in my opinion. All right, so gonna try and get this heater box back together. Been doing a lot of work on it recently, trying to get it all cleaned up, get all the grime and dirt out of it, get it all recoated, get all the rust off of these metal panels here. Got them all nice and clean again. And the dampers were super rusty. The insulation pads on them were completely just disintegrating. So I got them wrapped with the rubber insulation so they shouldn't chatter around inside the box. This is how the gasket kit comes for these. So I looked up what they look like, and that's exactly how they come. So that's what I made. This one's coated front and back. And I also put in a piece of gasket down in here that goes all the way around the heater core, so the heater core doesn't chatter. It actually is pretty snug in there now. That whole box is moving, not it. These things can really, really vibrate and chatter badly if you don't have the insulation back in there. I've taken a lot of these apart and found no insulation whatsoever, and the whole thing's just clunking around. And other ones I've taken them apart, and there's like tons of insulation in there, and it looks factory and original. So, you know, either if somebody took it out, they at least put it back in. This one didn't have anything in there. That heater core was kind of a little bit rattly in there. So I'm going to put that 1/8 inch foam in there that just helps take up that space and, you know, makes it not chatter. And then all the fasteners have been derusted and fresh coat of paint put on them and sealer, and so they shouldn't rust for a long time. I got these fastened to it. They're coated and good. So just a matter of setting the camera up and trying to get back at it, put it together. Hopefully I can get a good shot for everybody that shows everything, and we'll get going. Oh, and I had to go to the store and get rivets because I'd had to drill these out, and they were a funky style. They're right here. They're these little button, and they had a whole bunch of clasp that came out on the other side. And with how brittle these boxes are become, I don't want to try and put that style back in. So I just got traditional rivets that I will go ahead and touch up with paint once I have them put in. But first, I get the chore of trying to put these back in without looking like an idiot, because it is a challenge to put these back in to this box with only 2 hands, because you're trying to line up holes on both sides and not be able to see what you're doing. So it's kind of fun. Let's see how bad I messed this up again. I believe there's an earlier video, depending on how I edit the videos, there was a video that showed the first time I was trying to do it, and yeah, it was it's getting frustrating. So I'm not expecting a whole lot here this second time around. Maybe just I know that I got frustrated the first time, so prepared to be frustrated again, I guess. It didn't go together as easy as I put apart. You got 3 pegs you're trying to get into the body of the heater box on this side all at the same time, because if you get one and you don't get the other, then they all just fall back out. And I know something I didn't have in here the first time was the heater core. So I'm fighting that too because I was laying it flat. So let's take that back out. All right, hopefully that will make things easier. I can start over. All right, first one's in. Try to hold it. Oh, nope. as soon as it shifts, it falls out. And this is what I was struggling with the first time, is just trying to get the first one in and then hold it in place while I move my hands back around. All right. Oh. All right. Success with the first one. Now, onto the middle one. If it'll let me. Okay, that one's in. Okay, there we go. Okay. All right, so I've been having trouble with my microphone, so I apologize. I've kind of had to reshift and restart a little bit. But anyways, hopefully I can get this done quickly and recorded. So I added foam to the inside of this with the holes cut out for the heater core, and they are undersized holes, so it stretches around the pipe and, makes a nice tight seal around those pipes, around these two pipes coming out of there. So hopefully that shouldn't allow any air to come in through the engine bay into the box. And that was the main thing about those little gasket seals you could buy, was that they were designed to seal these two holes here around the tube. So that should do the same thing there and create a nice tight seal for the box. All right, so all the screws are in. Box is back together, looking really sharp. I love that cast iron color. It's the only metallic color that I had on the shelf that would remotely do this thing justice. All the others were like a silver or flat aluminum or cast aluminum, and they didn't even come close to looking like the back panel of that other one, the original color. So, for as far as what was looking somewhat metallic, I think that looks really sharp, looks really good. It's never going to get seen. It's going to be against the firewall insulation and never noticed. But, when somebody pulls it back out, at least it won't be rusty and, all gross and stuff. So that's a benefit there. So I'm going to bench test this fan one more time before I put it in here, just to make sure nothing changed with the whole taking it apart, putting it back together thing. So bear with me and I'll have this set up in a moment. All right, so I got this hooked up to my jump box here. I'm going to kick it on real quick and test this. I got a hold of it so it won't fly off the table, and make sure that nothing I did to it hurt it. It doesn't have any new squeaks or something like that, or squeals and vibrations or weird noise, because I did take this off. I put on a new gasket. I took the plate off. I painted the housing, but I didn't crack open the motor. I just blew it out real well. So let's see, make sure it's still working and everything before we put it back in the heater box here. Still running nice and quiet, so I'd say that's a success. All right, so now with that bench tested, I'm gonna drop this back in, wires towards the top of the housing so that they can reach where they need to go, and also so that you don't see them sticking out from under the dash. Throw these screws in real fast. Squishing that gasket out nice and flat. Getting that motor mounted right, all the way down in there. She is nice and tight. Got a little bit of paint to touch up, not a big deal. But yeah, this ground wire here at the top actually goes to this right here. And so with this being a little bit crusty and gross, I'm going to clean that up. And I'm also going to add a star washer that will dig in underneath of it better. This one was originally that way, but over time and years, it's lost its teeth. So I'm going to add a washer underneath of it that has those to it. So, all right, so I picked up this little kit of grounding washers. I don't know if you can see it, but basically that's what it is here. A whole bunch of different sizes and whatnot. And that's the one thing that I noticed with these old cars is that, you go through, you fix it all up, you do all the nice paint work, you get everything done, and then you go and put it all back together and the grounds don't work. You got too much paint now in an area, more paint than what was supposed to be there. These little washers, have been lost and, aren't with it anymore. These style of ones that have the dig-in teeth are not as, not thick enough teeth anymore to dig through the new paint. And so the simple solution is get yourself a set of these and put them underneath all of your grounds, and so they can dig in and dig through that paint and bite into the metal again. That's how they did it. So, you can always go and sand your paint off in these areas and stuff, but, then you run the risk of it, looking bad in that area too. So you just add one of these underneath of here and let it dig in as you screw down on it. It should get you your ground that you're needing for your stuff to work. And I can test this to make sure that it does by grounding out on one of these studs here with my battery box and then powering up this again and making sure that I'm biting in. As long as I get a clean contact on the teeth back here, on the threads back here, and that's biting through the paint, We can bench test it just to make sure. So let's do it. Let's do it. So get that on there and make sure it gets through that paint that got on that. If that star's biting into the paint and getting into the metal, doing its job, then we should have power to the fan. Fan's kicked on. That's open. And it's blowing air. No, it's not. No, it's restricted. It's open. Blowing. You can see that this is barely moving right now. As soon as I open it, now it's working. You hear the motor change. It's it's struggling, but it's all dampened off in there. Yeah. So pretty simple. Little bench test. Fan's doing its job, and then if I test this one. Now it's blowing up the bottom. So, pretty simple little test. But proof that it works. It's going in the truck. There's no issues. Ground's good. I don't know how many times in my early days that you take something apart, those little washers would get lost. And you're putting things back together and you put the screw on, you've painted everything, it's nice, and then you go to fire it up and nothing. You got no lights, you got no spark, you got nothing for whatever the issue is. Your grounds are all painted over and you're not getting any power. So like I said, simple solution. This thing's got 50 pieces of almost every size, and 20 of the bigger ones. But I don't even know how many times I'm going to need to use the bigger ones. But those small ones are going to come in handy because almost all the grounds on the vehicles are something like this size or smaller, and so just add one of these behind every ground just to make sure you're getting through that paint. Problem solved. Really simple. So anyways, heater box. That's what you're here for. Heater box. Blower's working. Heater box is rebuilt. This has been cleaned up and painted. And I got a brand new rubber boot to go in between. This is sealed in the plastic. This rubber is super soft, super flexible. It's clean. I'm going to leave it there until I need to put this in the vehicle. So I'm not going to break this out of the wrapper for this video. I got all the clips that go around it cleaned up, derusted, no more rust on them, and nice and ready to go in. And they just sandwich around this, trying to keep it all clipped together once you put the boot on there. Got all the rest of my bolts cleaned up over here. Fasteners, I get a quick shot at the beginning of this video, I think. But all these are cleaned, painted. These are the ones that go on the back side through the firewall, and these would be in the engine bay, tightening this to the firewall. These are all the vent screws that go around the kick panel and stuff. So everything's cleaned up, ready to be installed. This is going to go into get wrapped up with bubble wrap and put into a box and stored until I'm ready for it. But the peace of mind that, hey, heater box is ready. I got a brand new firewall insulation to go in. I got the thermostat, or the heater controls all done for the dash. Those are good to go. That's all rebuilt. All the cables that run this stuff back here, those are all rebuilt and ready to go. So this all is getting dialed in to the point that now I can just throw it back together once I get the truck, you know, into that stage. So I got a lot of metal work to do on that truck and stuff, but she is coming together. All these little small pieces, little small project. I wanted to do some of these things and do the videos on them. I wanted to have this stuff ready to go, so I thought, why not make a video of it? And if somebody out there has never done it before and they're looking at it, this thing is it's fairly simple and at the same time a little bit daunting because you have to drill out some rivets. You have to kind of finagle all this stuff to get it back together. It was a bit of a challenge to try and hang on to it. But if you've got a buddy or something like that is willing to help you, then an extra set of hands might not be so bad to put this box back together, all those dampers and stuff and everything. But it is possible to do it by yourself. I mean, I just proved it. I showed it. Not to say that it wasn't, didn't have its moments and didn't have some frustration, but you just kind of laugh about it and move on. And you pretty soon you got a working, functioning, good looking heater box. So now that the box is done and everything, I'm going to go ahead and touch up the rivets that were shiny and protruding on the other side of this and stuff, and not supposed to be there. But I kind of wanted to just take a moment and say, hey, the reason why I'm doing this stuff is that I'm trying to pay it forward. YouTube's been invaluable to me in my life of things when I don't know what it was, something that doesn't have to do with cars, or even something that had to do with cars and I didn't know what to do. We installed a pool, and I did tons of research on YouTube for installing the pool. I'd never installed a pool before, and then I dropped it in the ground. So it's like the stuff on YouTube can be silly and funny and great entertainment and informative and all that kind of stuff. And you got to take it with a grain of salt because we're all we are all our own experts, But I just want to take the moment to say, if you don't like these videos, leave a comment. Tell me why. I'm not opposed to trying to make it more entertaining, or more interesting or whatever. But I mean, I'm rebuilding a truck at the moment, so I'm making videos about that. I'm cleaning parts with a laser, so I'm making a video about that. I bought a bunch of Evapo-Rust and I love the product and it works really great, so I'm making a video about that. So if you enjoy these videos and like the videos and want to see more stuff like that, then leave a comment. Let me know that you are enjoying these things and stuff. So it's one of those things where I'm not I know a lot of people do these things for money and all that other stuff and everything. I'm doing it because I appreciate that somebody else did the videos and put them out there so that when I was looking for help or I was looking for information, that I could find it and I could look it up and see a video on somebody how somebody else did it. And to me, I'm a typical dude. I'm a visual learner. You can tell me 15 ways from Sunday how to do something, and maybe I'll get it, but you show me it once, no problem, I got it. So that's the thing that I see the value in YouTube. For me personally, is that I can learn from it and I can pass knowledge on as well. And so, like I said, if you like these videos and you want to see more and stuff like that, leave a comment. Tell me what you like about it. Tell me what you want to see more of. I try to show as much work as I possibly can. These videos get super long. I've spent almost more time editing it down than I did doing the parts. So that's kind of been a challenge here recently because I'd much rather be working on the truck than editing videos. But I feel it's important to share this information, put it out there. Hope everybody has a great day. Hope they enjoyed the videos. If you have comments or issues with the videos, please leave a comment. Please let me know what I could do better, what you would like better to see more of or whatever. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.